Washington, D.C. now is Valerie Szybala. She's the Executive Director of the Syria Institute. It's a non-profit, non-partisan organization that advises politicians on the situation in the country. Ms. Szybala, it's very good to have you with us on Al-Jazeera. So how much of the $10 billion pledged at the Donors Conference in London will make it to those Syrians living in the red areas, the orange, the purple that we've just mentioned? Who's helping them?
Unfortunately, I think there's a good chance that very little, if any, of the money pledged will make it to the over 1 million people living in besieged areas in Syria.
These people are in desperate need. How can the international community get aid into these areas? There are UN resolutions, aren't there, that say that all parties in Syria must allow in humanitarian aid. So why does it take so long? Days, if not much longer, of negotiations to actually get this aid in?
Yeah, in most cases, the aid doesn't go in even with negotiations. Madaya is a special case because it got international media attention, but most of these areas never do. The United States, other donor countries need to express their desire to the UN that they're funding to be more forceful and to take bolder steps in its attempts to get aid into these areas, because asking the Syrian government for permission to help the areas that they themselves are besieging has proven ineffective.
Well, you mentioned Madaya there. That, of course, has received much international attention, and the UN has actually come under criticism for its handling of Madaya. What sort of challenges is the UN facing with getting aid into besieged areas in Syria in dealing with the government? How difficult is it for them?
I mean, that might be a question you have to ask the UN, but Madaya, like many besieged areas, was actually not recognized as besieged in their official reporting. I think that they face a political balancing act in what they report on and what they don't. And despite the fact that it had been besieged for many months, the UN monthly reporting to the Security Council failed to recognize that. It took a group of activists spreading photos online to get attention of the situation there.
And is that what some aid organizations in Syria are calling the politicization of the delivery of aid, you know, where the UN is trying to walk a fine line between having a relationship with Damascus and getting aid into areas that the regime is besieging, in the process letting down civilians that are trapped, that are in need?
Yes, absolutely. That's part of it. The funneling of aid to government-controlled areas, because those are the only ones that the government allows it to, is a big part of what is being criticized right now. And a lot of Syrians on the ground, a lot of people in besieged areas feel that the UN is actively complicit in the regime's strategy because it has worked so closely with the regime on these deliveries.
Valerie Szybala, Executive Director of the Syria Institute, joining us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.